Hey, what's up, guys? My name is John Silva, and today we're going to talk about how to study. How do you go about it? What should you be doing? What should you not be doing? Um, I got a couple of notes here, and we're going to go right into it. So, first of all, before you even start drawing or anything, you got to be prepared, or at least you got to have an idea what you should be expecting. And first note here is be prepared to fail. There's no other way around it, to be honest, and you just gotta know that things are not gonna go accordingly to plan. It never does, no matter how long you've been doing this. The second thing is it won't look good, but don't be scared. Um, the more you keep doing this, the more you keep studying and getting better, it will start catching up to what you have in your brain. Um, And third, last thing, all of this is a good thing. The fact that you're scared, the fact that you know you're gonna fail, and it won't look as good in the beginning, or it most likely is gonna look terrible. And why is that a good thing? It's a good thing because you won't have high expectations, therefore you will automatically be less pressured if you mentalize yourself. And the fact that you know that it's going to push you harder into studying better and finding out your own way to make it work for you, because every single person is different. Um, Next note we have here is once you do start having um, study schedule and you actually want to do this full time and get really, really freaking good, you have to have a goal, or at least some sort of goal, to be honest. And on these 3 points is what do you want to learn? That's the very first thing you want to know. Like you have to know what do you want to get better, because every single study is going to be different. Once it's going to be about lighting. Another focus could be about color, drawing, like any fundamental. It should be separate per study section, you know? So find out what you want to learn first. Doesn't matter what it is, just close your eyes, think about something, and start from that point on. Don't think about it too much. Second point is focus one thing at a time. Well, what I just said, you gotta focus on doing just the color, doing just the light, doing just the drawing. Some point later on you wanna add in two things, or you start noticing and you start studying two things at the same time, but it won't happen in the beginning. It's better to simplify it, even if you've been doing this for a while. And last thing is pick suitable photos, and that's very important. So if you're drawing, let's say you want to draw a dragon, right? You're not going to pick a photo, or maybe you can, but maybe you're not going to pick a photo of a hippopotamus, or I don't know, giraffe. Although that would be pretty cool. You can make it, yeah, you know what I mean. If you want your traditional dragon, you just most likely want to pick photos of lizards, bats, and things that suit what you're going after, right? For example, color, right? You pick photos that have a nice color to it, a nice balance, a nice harmony of colors. Light, for example, you want a nice photo that is not overexposed and there's a nice lighting situation and you can clearly see how the light works, right? These are just a few examples. So make sure you pick a photo suitable to the thing that you want to learn, right? The topic that you're focusing on. Next thing is reference. There we go. Avoid overexposed photos. I was just talking about this. Here's a couple of examples. I did a pretty quick Google search. You can find these all over the place. Well, first example, you can clearly see what is wrong, right? It's overblown. There's too much white, pure white, or close to pure white. The midtones are gone in a lot of places. You want a photo that shows a lot of midtones. For example, if I really quickly turn this black and white, you can see better. Let me zoom in a little here. You can see better that you see more of the midtones. There's more edges. You can see clearly. It's not blending in too much with everything. You want a photo that you can see things clearly, and overexposed photos is a bad thing, to me at least. Second example here, zoom out here. Have a wedding photo, and you can see where it's just overblown, overexposed everywhere. Just too many things are merging together when it comes to values, which is very, very important. However, in the comparison on the right side, you can see everything. You can see the wedding dress against the background, and you can see the silhouette of it. Silhouette is very, very important. And lastly, you gotta hear an old portrait, right? And well, portraits are important too, and you can see that on the left side you barely see any of the shapes, and the midtones are just gone on the face, and most everything honestly is just overblown, overexposed. You want to be able to see all those shapes to clearly identify. When you'll be drawing, you want to identify the planes of your face, right? Where does it go in and out, things like that. Next thing is active versus mindless copy. Now this is very important, if not the most important of everything, because even though I put this up and I have things into sections, right? When I actually started studying, I didn't really know what I was doing. I had some sort of idea, but a lot of it was just, for the first half a year, I was copying mindlessly. I would grab a photo and then I would copy it and I would make it as perfect as possible, but I wasn't really thinking about it. So the first thing is think. Aha, well, you gotta think. You gotta think about your photos. Second thing is you gotta keep thinking, because you're gonna get tired of thinking. And you gotta be strong to just keep pushing, and it's been an hour, you're looking at the clock, or maybe you're not, but most likely you'll be looking at the clock and you're like, oh my god, it's been an hour and a half. I can't take this anymore. It's just tired of thinking, you know? But get used to it. Keep thinking. And last, of course, make it up, but still think. Still keep thinking. Now, what do I mean by this is that there's no real way of studying. There's no real way of figuring things out. Each person has its own way of studying. I have my own, and I'm showing you today. But a lot of it is making it up. For example, you pick a photo or you set up a life steal on your table or something, and you don't know much about one subject. Let's say you didn't read too much about value in color. It's something very hard to see the light and darkness of a color, right? Let's say you set up, as I was saying, you set up a still life, or you even take a photo. Now, when you look at that thing and you don't know too much about it, you have to make it up. I mean, maybe you don't, but to me, I felt like it was much easier once I started to make things up that made sense in my brain, even though it wasn't correct. And And then along the way, as I kept reading from more experienced people, some things I found I was wrong, some things I found I was right. But regardless, you kept solving a problem. And this is the main big issue when you mindless copy, when you're just copying for the sake of making it similar, but you're not solving a problem, right? So make it up, invent things, pretend, do whatever it takes for you to keep your brain trying to solve something you don't know about. Think a little bit like a scientist, you know? You keep, it's trial and error, you keep trying and trying and trying, and some things are gonna stick, other things are not really gonna make too much sense at all, and you're just gonna fail. It's just how things are. But when you're thinking about that color, when you're thinking about that value in the color, you just think, oh, the light is hitting this object from this angle, and the color of the light is gonna enhance the color of that object. Like, make up stuff, even if it doesn't make sense. Just make it up, keep thinking. You're gonna get tired if you're not used to doing this often. It's a normal thing. It's a very normal thing. Just keep doing it and you'll be fine. Let's see the last point here that I have. Process. Now, the way I do studying now, it's much different than before, because as I was saying, the more you keep doing this, the more you keep studying, you start figuring out what goes well with your process. You know, it's good to always simplify things and make sure that you have some kind of step, more and less, you know. Every single study is different, but yeah, just make up a process. So to me, the best thing to start is measurement. So before I have a photo or a still life, I will measure things up as I draw. Measurement and drawing, first and second point, are very closely together. There's not much of a time gap in between those 2 points, but I'll do little measurements, and I will, while I'm doing the measurements, I will draw a little bit, and until I have the whole drawing of it, only then I'll start the third step, which is analyzing value in color. Now, to me, this is the most important, to be honest, because color is very nice. Color, it can bring really a lot, really a lot to an image, regardless of what you're painting. But with that said, you cannot make a good image without a good value. It's just how things are, you know? Remember the overexposed photos that I was just showing? That. Even though there was nice colors to the pictures, if the value is not correct, you cannot achieve that color that you're so wishing to. So yeah, analyzing value in color is very important. Basically, what I will be doing is forcing myself to ignore the color and see the light and dark of it, how light it is and how dark it is. So that's very important. And last thing, it's rendering, aka materials. There's not too much I can add to that because it's time consuming. It's something you get used to do, and it's all about practice. There's a couple of points that you can read on the internet or books or somewhere where it can help actually with your rendering, but honestly it's more practice than not. It's just putting in the hours. It really is like that. I think we're done with all the points here, and we're gonna start. Let's start our study. We spent 15 minutes talking about that. So there's this picture that I found on, I believe, on Facebook by artist Naz Abdul. I don't know. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but he's an amazing sculptor, and I thought that he light up his sculpture very well. You can see the definition between light and dark, which is our focus. It's gonna be light and dark. It seems to be a little overexposed in some areas, but it's not too bad. As long as you recognize that and you have and you have in your mind that that's what's happening. As long as the overexposure is not too bad, then it's okay. And also it's gonna be okay because I'm focusing on the shape of the light and the shape of shadows and how that builds up the form, you know, how it wraps around the form. So yeah, there's a little explanation before starting. I recommend everybody who does studies, regardless of what you do, more times than not, use a simple round brush. Color here. Second. So I have a very basic, it comes with Photoshop. I have a very basic brush, just round brush with opacity on. And why? The reason for that is that with the texture brush, you can make up things and it's going to be more forgiving, while with a round simple brush, whatever you put in the canvas, it's going to be noticed, right? And that forces you to make correct brush strokes. With texture brushes, it tends to be forgiving and it tends to create an illusion in your eyes or in your brain that things are correct while it's really not. So we want to make it a little bit hard for us, because if something is too easy when studying, it means that you gotta make it harder so that you're actually learning. When something is too easy, you're not learning as much. So efficiency is our priority. So let's start. I'm gonna do quickly a measurement, as I was saying. Let's start with the top knot. So I'm kind of like, I'm measuring where the top knot is gonna be, then the bottom part, put this a little higher right there, and the bottom part of the top knot. I'm gonna draw a little bit. So as I was saying, measurement and drawing goes hand to hand. When I do this, you can do the whole measurement first and the drawing after. I like doing both at the same time. Yeah. So I'm gonna quickly do simple shapes. Right. Here it goes at an angle at the top, then it curves downwards. So the dreadlocks in the middle length somewhere around here. Now, when it comes to measurement, I didn't really read too much about it. I kind of made it up, to be honest. It works for me. I suggest you do the same, but at the same time, you always want to... I have an idea how other people do it. Let's put it in that way. I don't follow how others do their own thing, because I believe that we're smart. Even if you're not like professional or you're just starting doing art, I believe that anybody can make things up and work for them. So drawing here the shape of the shadow on the ear. Now the top part, going back here to the head, similar to an egg shape. Curves down. Let's measure a little bit thickness between this part here behind the ear and the eyebrow. yeah, around there, and then the eyebrow comes out. Seems like the distance is seems to be this far, and the eyebrow goes a little bit further away, goes in. Now the cheek is almost at the same height as I mean, it goes out almost the same as the eyebrow. Do that, and then at this point seems to go in, right? There's always some adjustments you might be doing later on, but do anything to just have a start. The best thing is just go for it. Whether it's right or wrong, you can always adjust it later on, right? Now the nose. So if the eye ends there, and then the curvature of the nose starts to be here. Be a little too curved, and it could be because my eyeball. So you can automatically do adjustments. And you spend. I'm gonna rush a little bit because I don't want you to be watching this forever. But in your own time, you want to spend an hour and a half, maybe even more, doing this, making sure that everything is all right. Nose, right here, then the shadow of the nose. So, and you want to be as perfect as possible. Analyze the shape. Think about the curvature of everything. Anything that curves gives form, usually. Of course, if you have a blocky shape, uh, then like anything that gives an angle, maybe I should say like that, that anything that gives an angle is a good way of showing form. Now the eyebrow. Right now I'm looking at the shadow of the, because that's what we're focusing on. Shadow and light, the division between both and how they show form. Think when you look at images, think a bit of it as in a 3D wireframe. So if you don't know, it's when there's those 3D images with lines all over the place, like horizontally and vertically. Those are pretty good images for form if you Google it. Okay, so there's a nostril right there, and I'm gonna go back here to the ear, draw the shape of the. Now, how far is this away? Put it here. And the more you do this, the more eyeballing you do and measurements, the better you get at it. I'm not super good. Unfortunately, I can't do as many studies as I used to as a young artist. But I think it's all right. Now, as you keep drawing something, you keep comparing and you'll start making adjustments. That's why it's so important to don't stress, go for it. Like really. It's gonna be wrong. You already know that. We talked about it in the beginning, right? So I keep comparing left and right, looking back and forth. That's another thing. The fact that you look at an image and you don't draw, like really analyze, look at the picture, just try to analyze as much as possible, and only then you can start drawing it in. And keep doing that. Keep taking little breaks in between, and just stare at the picture, or stare at the life drawing that you set up, still life. So right now I'm looking at landmarks, so corners of things. For example, here the mouth, right there, and then the corner of the other side of the mouth. Bit of light here. Shape like on the lip, on the lower lip. Now that looks like the lip curves flat in the middle and then curves in down. You can see the upper lip needs to be a little bit closer to the side of the face, the outer side of the face on the right. And it's the same thing over and over and over again. Just simplify your shapes. Look that I'm not going in and I'm not drawing like little scribbles. I'm looking at the shape of the shadow and I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible. And with that said, I'm looking here at the shape of my cheekbone. Go. The more you have drawn in, the better you can make a judgment on what you should change. The double chin here. And straight bump there, skin. And before we actually keep going, I need a little bit more information from the left side where the ear is. Let's draw in that full earring the guy has. That. Let's erase this part where it's gonna be hidden in shadow. Now, if you don't have much time doing this, I don't know, because you have a job and you're a student and you don't have much time to do your own personal studies, try to simplify what you're looking at as much as possible. So for this, in this case, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible, fill in the light and shadow, and that's my focus. That's what we want to learn. How does it wrap around the form, right? Now, drawings is very important, but if you'd like, you can start with blocking in shapes. Instead of drawing, you can go in and kind of like sculpt your shadows, like you'd be doing like this. It can be faster, but to me, I really like line drawing, and I recommend to everybody. The draftsmanship is a beautiful thing. It's really, really important to me. Let's connect that. Now I can see more and more where's the mistakes, and that's a good thing. If you see a lot of mistakes from your drawing, that's a good thing. Don't be discouraged. That means that you are recognizing that something is wrong. If you're recognizing that something is wrong, means that you can fix it. Now if you do something and you think everything is okay, then we have a problem. I'm trying really hard not to spend too much time on this, and honestly, I'm gonna speed up the video so that you guys don't stay here forever, basically. Alright, so from this point on, we're gonna fill in the outlines that we're just finished doing, the division between light and dark. We're gonna fill those in. There's not much to kind of guide you through it. It's as simple as coloring a picture that has numbers 1, 2, 3, and that's essentially what we're doing, simplifying it and making it easy for us so that we can understand better how light wraps around form and the graphical nature and outline of light and shadow. So from this point on, I can notice that on the locks, because there's a lot of detail in there, I'm simply gonna grab my eraser and I'm gonna erase the shape of the light. So what's happening here is that brush, I use it for shaping my shadows, and the eraser, I'm gonna use it to shape my highlights and the shape of the light, right? So we're gonna do that right now. Okay, so we're done doing that. Um, you of course want to spend much more time than I have on this. The next step I would go is actually put in my midtones, because right now I got my darks and I got my lights, but I don't have any midtones in there. And midtones really, as we discussed previously, it really shows form. Therefore, I'm gonna the same thing that I've done with outlining the shadow, I'm gonna do exactly the same with the midtones. So I can quickly, looking at the value of it, I know it's a tinted, has a tinted brown color to it, towards yellow. I'm gonna make a new layer, set it under, because hey, Photoshop, am I right? So I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the whole uh, outline, the whole silhouette. I'm gonna paint it in, and after that I'm gonna do the background, because the background is a good contrast to the light as well, so we can't forget about that. But yeah, meanwhile, first silhouette, then background, and then we're gonna sculpt the highlights a little bit better. Okay, so after putting in the background, you can notice that a lot of it looks very weird, but don't be afraid, because we're gonna, once we put in the light back on, and also we need to darken our shadows as well, everything is gonna go back to place. Alright, so we darkened our shadows a little bit more. If you notice, I had a little bit of ambient occlusion, so it's not same value everywhere. Some areas are a little bit lighter inside of the shadow. And now that we're done with that, we're gonna sculpt our lights. right now, I would consider this pretty much done, to be honest with you, except there's some areas where for example, here in the forehead, like right here, there's too much of a big division in value. Um, that needs to be smoothed out. There's other areas that need to be smoothed out as well. And that's when I consider the rendering stage, because if I look at it at a very small size, most of the information is there. You know, all the detail and stuff. There's some areas that need to be a bit more worked on, but aside from that, what we wanted to gain, the information that we wanted to learn, uh, we we got it. You know, or at least some of it, if you were keep trying hard. But essentially, you could stop here. You can proceed and make it more accurate, which is what I advise, to be honest with you. Um, I'm gonna do a little bit of more cleanup, make sure that the head area mainly is has the appropriate gradients to it. But just know that this is the rendering stage. You can stop at any time you want. All the basic needed information is there. It's You're mainly just making things prettier and more defined from this point on. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that, not too much. And yeah, see you in a bit. So right now, I'm at the stage where I would consider it done, but for the sake of cleanliness, I'm gonna zoom out as it is right now, and I'm just gonna go and clean up some edges, any major shapes that seem to be out of place a little bit, sharpening some areas, and that should really be it, to be honest. So let's do that. So I pretty much consider this done. There's still things that we can tighten up. There's still always work. You can spend literally months doing this, but I'm gonna stop here because the information that we want to get, and which is the main point, the focus that we chose to learn on this section, we already got it, right? From this point on is just making things prettier, sharper, um, also more accurate, which I do recommend doing, even though we already got the information that we needed. And yeah, from this point on, keep going for another hour, 2 hours, as much as you need to make it look right and as correct as possible. Um, any last tips that I can give you guys is squinting your eyes when you're zoomed out from the reference picture, or if you have a still life setup, it tends to help you to see more clear the division between light and dark. And also, if there's a lot of color in the image, it tends to, how should I put this? It tends to hide away a little bit more of that color, and you focus much more on the light. So that's a good thing if you can see the values much better in color than if it was obviously black and white. Um, yeah, it's been fun doing this. And if you guys like this session and you feel like you learned something from it, feel free to leave a like or a comment or something to show your support and that you're interested. Because honestly, this is very deep. Studying is a very deep topic. 30 minutes is not enough to cover everything, to be honest. So there could be more parts to it. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I've been John Silva, and yeah, I'll see you next time.